You probably clicked on this video because you thought it was going to be me criticizing and making fun of the 2023 film, The Flash. Well, I'm here to tell you that I'm going to be talking about it. That's for sure. That's what this video is about. I'm going to be talking about that movie. I'm not going to be, being too harsh on it because I haven't made a movie like that, and you haven't made a movie like that. So who are you to fucking tell the movie what it is or isn't supposed to be? I'm very excited to talk about this movie, though. I rewatched some clips of it recently, and I said, yeah, I should make a video about this movie, and so that's what I'm doing here today. Now, this film, it was destined to fail from the start. I think they went through like 3 directors or something like that before finally landing on the director of It movies, Andy Muschietti, and he made this movie, and the starring Ezra Miller, an actor who could not stay out of controversy after fighting and punching and kidnapping multiple underage women. Shouldn't do that, Ezra. That's not good. But you get to be in this movie, so I guess it worked out for you. When was this movie announced? It was announced probably like 10 years before the movie was even released. It was one of the initial lineup of the big drop of the DC movies that was going to come after the Man of Steel-verse, the Zack Snyder universe. It was going to be under the helm of the Zack Snyder world within his cast, his universe that he was building. I believe there was variations of this film that were going to involve characters like Captain Cold or the Rogues, the Flash Rogues. This movie obviously didn't go that route. In fact, I don't think any Flash villains appear in this movie, which is weird to have a Flash movie that doesn't have any of his villains since he has such an iconic lineup of villains. Not only that, but this movie came out at a time where there was already a popular and successful Flash adaptation on the CW that was being released every week. They were on probably like season 7 or 9 by the time this movie came out, or maybe it was even done. I don't remember. But this show, I think, was wildly popular. A lot of people used to tell me I looked like the Flash from the show. I didn't think I did, but maybe I had something. He's a tall white guy with brown hair, pretty close. And that leads me to another thing that was going against the movie, which is the film is supposed to be an adaptation of the Flashpoint storyline from the comics. Now, I don't know if that was the plan from the start of the film. The film process was to adapt that storyline, that particular storyline. It feels to me that's a weird storyline to start a Flash series on, is the storyline where he goes back in time to save his mother from being killed. That storyline came many years into the existence of the Flash. It was very mature Flash at that point. It doesn't make sense to that be your first Flash story. Not only that, but it was already adapted as a very popular animated film. I think one of the most popular DC animated films. And it was already an episode arc of the Flash TV series. So the idea of Flash going back in time to save his mother, it has already been something that people were aware of, whether they read the comic or they saw the animated movie or the TV show, or they could just kind of see how that's going. Maybe their friend told them about it or something, or they saw the trailer for the Flash show. This feels like you have to be delicate with something like this because you don't want to just create the same story and then have all the viewers and the fans already know everything that's going to happen. You want to make it different enough that there's still surprises along the way of the film, but it ultimately serves the same points as the storyline since so many people are fans of it. This brings me to probably the biggest difference between the comic storyline and the film is that the comic book, the Batman in the Flashpoint universe is the Thomas Wayne Batman. In the film, obviously, they made it the Michael Keaton Batman from the 1989 Batman film. If you were aware of at all of the Zack Snyder Justice League universe, this was clearly kind of the route that it seemed like they were going. They cast Jeffrey Dean Morgan as a young Thomas Wayne in a flashback scene in Batman vs. Superman. To me, at least, it seemed as though they were setting that character up to become the Thomas Wayne Batman at some point in the future. Now, by the time the movie came out, it was nostalgia storm everywhere. Nostalgia was running his big old dick through Hollywood. Everybody's Star Wars doing it, and the Marvel Spider-Man's doing it, and the Ghostbusters doing it. Everybody's doing bring back the old characters. It only made sense that, a big draw to get people to come to this movie would be bring back one of the original Batman characters, specifically the Michael Keaton one. I think that a big reason a lot of people came to see this film was for seeing Michael Keaton return as Batman, or Old Man Batman, whatever they want to call him. I think that had they gone with the Jeffrey Dean Morgan, Thomas Wayne Batman, people would probably have less interest in the movie than if they brought back the character that they remember from their childhoods. And look, he was fine, if I remember. I don't think they used him too much in the film. He seemed to have more abilities as like a 70-year-old man in the film than he did in the films when he was younger. He was like flying around. He was spin kicking people in the face. He had, he could have more functionality. Obviously there's more CGI, but the character itself, it didn't make much sense how he would have this much ability. But it's a movie, it's Batman, it's whatever. People can suspend their disbelief for Batman. I think the B plot of the comic book is that the Wonder Woman and Aquaman are going at war with each other, and the world is about to end because they're all going at it. Obviously, you can't do that in the film without having to pay for Aquaman and Wonder Woman to be in the film. And I think that it was a very smart idea to include the General Zod takeover of the Metropolis from the Man of Steel movie. It was a good way to keep it connected to the Man of Steel Zack Snyder movies, and kind of keep it fresh from not having to include the Wonder Woman and Aquaman plot points. It was kind of an interesting, different take that I think that had they not spoiled it in like the action figures and the trailers, I think that would have been a really cool twist for people to, the scene when it's revealed on the TV that General Zod is his ship is arriving. I think that would have been a more interesting twist than if they had shown it and people knew what was going to happen. Oh, that's like the scene from Superman. Oh, he's back in the Superman time. This is so crazy. This is interesting. I think that would have made for a really cool twist. Same thing with the Supergirl reveal. I think, obviously they have to market that Supergirl is going to be in a movie. This was, I think, like the first big time she was in a movie. I did think it was a bit strange that in the Superman movie, he is able to defeat the whole of the Kryptonian army, but this movie had Supergirl, 2 Flashes, and a Batman, and they couldn't even take out one of the Kryptonian army. So look, I get it. They had to have the stakes for the film, and maybe, Supergirl isn't as strong as Superman, whatever. Yeah, sure, but I think, if they have a strategist like Batman, the Flash, obviously he's coming from a universe where he knows that Superman's weakness is kryptonite. He knows that Superman has a weakness of the ship shooting down the laser. He could have, told Batman, what if we get, General Zod to do something in the ship and then the laser depowers him, something like that. I don't know. But they didn't go that route. They had to set it up for the time travel element, which is another thing that I found was really interesting. I think I stopped watching The Flash after like season 3 or 4, the TV series, because it was just got to the point where the solution was always just he had to run faster. He had a new villain who ran faster than him, and he just had to figure out how to run faster. I kind of lost interest in it. I know people like it, but I lost interest in it. But what this film does is they have 2 Flashes. They have a younger one, and then the one from the different dimension, who is kind of from the future. He's kind of teaching the younger one how to use the Flash powers, so that way they can team up and take down the General Zod army. And the younger Flash, he is losing the battle, so he decides to go back in time, and he continually goes back in time and continually starts to age, and he gets all this, shit all over him, and he starts to go insane trying to figure out how to win the battle. And he turns into the Black Flash, which is like the zombie version of the Flash that collects the dead Flashes. I thought that was a very interesting twist. I think that was also spoiled in like an action figure or something, but that's something that I hadn't seen before in like a Flash thing. I'm sure they did at some point in the Flash TV show, like a big reveal that the Flash was actually the villain. But having the Black Flash as the kind of villain, he's kind of the one who sets it up, so that way Barry goes back in time and ends up in that time period. I thought that was a good twist and a good inclusion of the character. What I didn't like was that there wasn't a Professor Zoom or a Reverse Flash or another famous Flash villain. From the TV series, it's shown obviously that Reverse Flash is the one who kills his mother. It's never explained in the movie who kills his mother, and I think in the Zack Snyder version there was supposed to be at some point inclusion of Reverse Flash. I'm not sure if that was the goal for this movie, was to include it, or maybe for a follow-up movie it would have had a reveal that the Reverse Flash was the one behind the whole thing from the start. This one, I think that, you know, there's a lot of really interesting Flash villains and interesting Speed Force Flash stuff. And as much as I thought the reveal that Barry was the one who was creating the time loop and, you know, he was the Black Flash, I think that it really missed an opportunity to have some of the other cool, interesting speedsters from the DC universe involved. And then obviously at the very end he goes back to what he thinks is the present, and the twist again is that it's George Clooney, it's the Batman and Robin universe, when in reality it was supposed to be the Michael Keaton Batman universe, and they were going to reboot the DC series again, and then obviously that never came through. They had to scrapped all that, changed it last minute, made it's a different reboot now. The George Clooney thing, you know, it's clever. I didn't like that he had a beard. I think, you know, how would Batman have a beard unless he's not Batman anymore in this universe? That was a bit, or does he, you know, grow it and shave it like between going out as Batman? I don't know. Obviously they wanted to have George Clooney in the thing, and for whatever reason he had a beard, maybe for a role, and so he was like, I'm not going to shave it. Just, don't explain why Bruce Wayne has a beard. I mean, that was fine. That's, you know, picking for stuff at that point. But so, look, to get to the end of this, I think that there's things in this film that are interesting. You know, the Black Flash reveal, the Flash fighting the Kryptonians, the Batman stuff. You know, obviously I would have liked to have seen Thomas Wayne, and I think when I was younger and envisioning what a Flashpoint movie look like in the future, I envisioned it with a Thomas Wayne. I think the George Clooney, or not the George Clooney, what's his name? The Michael Keaton. He did his thing. You know, he's probably much more famous now than he was when he was originally cast in that movie. So I think, again, it's a big nostalgia thing. People wanted to see this character return. I think this movie will be remembered as, I don't know, like an okay, like, DC movie. I don't think it was the worst movie ever. I don't think it was as bad as maybe, you know, myself included, a lot of people said it was when it initially came out. Because I think that it was just, we were tired of these types of movies, and there was a lot of behind-the-scenes drama. There was a lot going on with this movie, and I think people wanted to find something negative about it. James Gunn said it was the best movie he had ever seen, and at that set of high expectation, people obviously saw it and were like, yeah, that wasn't the case at all. But I don't think that it's as bad as maybe I said it was, or a lot of people thought it was. So please, let me know what you think of the film. Was it worth it? Was it good? Was the TV show better? Is the old TV show from the 90s better? Is Flash Gordon better? Is flashing your penis in public better? I need to know. Thanks for watching this. I'll see you next time.